Remember. Welcome to WatchMojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 disturbing V for Vendetta moments. For this list, we're looking at some of the most upsetting, uncomfortable, and dark scenes from the 2005 dystopian comic book movie V for Vendetta. Please note, there are major spoilers ahead. Number 10, BTN Broadcast. In the dystopian fascist Britain imagined by V for Vendetta, the state-run Britain Television Network, or BTN, dominates the airwaves. No news outlet is free from bias, but BTN is a propaganda machine. In this broadcast, the so-called voice of London, Lewis Prothero, delivers a gloating critique about the United States' misfortunes.
I think it's high time we let the colonies know what we really think of them. I think it's payback time for a little tea party they threw for us a few hundred years ago.
He then goes on to rail against a myriad of marginalized groups. It's hard to watch, but it sets the stage for the events of the film.
Immigrants, Muslims, homosexuals, terrorists.
Prothero comes across like some sort of far-right conspiracy theorist on social media, but the terrifying truth is that he represents the government's values and actually has a mainstream national audience.
A God-fearing Englishman, and I'm goddamn proud of it.
That's quite enough of that, thank you very much.
Number 9, Evies Story. Our protagonist might work for BTN, but her reaction during Prothero's broadcast makes it clear that she has issues with the police state the country's become. And she has every reason to feel that way.
My father was a writer. You would have liked him.
Evie lost both of her parents at a very young age to this totalitarian regime. As Evie tells V her story, we're given a flashback to the terrifying night that the Fingermen, Britain's secret police, came to blackbag her parents, who were politically active in opposing the Norse Fire Party.
Evie, quick, hide!
The arrest, which can only be described as a home invasion, plays out like a scene from a horror movie. The terror on young Evie's face can't be unseen.
I never saw them again. It was like those black bags erased them from the face of the earth.
Number 8, the government's response to the attack. On the night that Evie first meets V, the masked vigilante offers her a front row seat to his first major act of resistance, the destruction of the Old Bailey.
Here comes the crescendo!
For High Chancellor Sutler and his government, this is their worst nightmare, a symbolic attack that they fear could inspire the public to rise up. And so they handle it as they do everything else, by spreading lies and falsehoods to pacify people while simultaneously cracking down.
The Bailey area is quarantined. All significant witnesses have been detained.
Witnesses are detained, the music played during the event is immediately blacklisted, and surveillance is drastically ramped up. Most egregious, however, are the lies they spread via BTN about the nature of the explosion. Maintaining order is their highest and only priority.
On the lighter side of things, seems that the crew responsible for the demolition of the Old Bailey wanted to give the old girl a grand, albeit improvised, send-off.
Number 7, Evies Incarceration. After being blackbagged, Evie wakes up in a mysterious facility. In a truly traumatic scene, she cries as her head is shaved and she's thrown into a small damp cell. She's taken out only to be tortured and interrogated. It's a painful reminder of the sort of treatment people receive in unjust legal systems and dictatorships. In a twist, however, it's revealed that V was behind it all, having recreated the experience of a Norse Fire facility to free Evie of her fears.
Hello, Evie.
You. It was you.
Yeah.
That wasn't real.
Understandably, Evie struggles to forgive him. What makes these moments even more disturbing is the fact that countless people, including V, have been subjected to the same and worse.
What was true in that cell is just as true now. What you felt in there has nothing to do with me.
I can't feel anything anymore!
Number 6, Dietrichs Arrest. As a public figure and popular talk show host, Dietrich has a certain amount of clout. He plays by Norse Fire's rules and leads a life of relative luxury as a result. But like Evie, Dietrich secretly disagrees with the government on most issues.
The truth is, after so many years, you begin to lose more than just your appetite. You wear a mask for so long, you forget who you were beneath it.
Inspired by V's acts of resistance, Dietrich throws out the government-approved script for his show and broadcasts a scathing parody of Sutler, the Norse Fire leader.
I am your chancellor! How dare!
He expects a slap on the wrist and to have to make a public apology, but that very night he learns firsthand just how swift and brutal Sutler's retribution can be. Watching from under the bed, Evie is essentially forced to relive the night her parents were taken. Number 5. The story of Adam Sutler. Fascism and fear walk hand in hand, as this harrowing cautionary tale shows all too well. Disguised as William Rookwood, V recounts to Inspector Finch how Adam Sutler rose to power.
He's completely single-minded and has no regard for the political process.
Sutler was a charismatic conservative politician who harbored racist and extreme religious prejudices. After secretly developing biological weapons, he unleashed them on his own country and blamed the attacks on terrorists, then stepped in to restore law and order.
Before the St. Mary's crisis, no one would have predicted the results of the election that year. No one.
Widespread fear created a vulnerable population willing to trade freedom for security. Armed with a complete disregard for human life, Sutler was able to dismantle democracy and transform the nation.
Fear became the ultimate tool of this government, and through it, our politician was ultimately appointed to the newly created position of High Chancellor.
Number 4. Bishop Lilliman's appetites. When V rescues Evie and brings her to his home, he thinks he's found himself an ally in his war against Northfire.
It appears that unforeseen circumstances have accelerated my original plan. As a result, I'm in need of someone with some theatrical skill.
And so he enlists her help in the next phase of his plot. Evie serves as bait for Bishop Lilliman, a corrupt church figure who served at the Larkhill Detention Center where V was experimented on.
To think that I doubted your loveliness for an instant. Mea culpa, my child. Mea culpa.
Despite supposedly being there to protect the rights of the inmates, Lillaman turned a blind eye to the atrocities committed there. Well, as we learn in this scene, Lillaman's crimes are many. He also preys on minors and has zero issue with forcing himself on them.
Stop it! Get off of me!
Seems like I've captured a dangerous terrier now. How best procure her confession?
Number 3. The child in the V mask. One small spark is all it takes to start a revolution. Subtlety has never been V's style, though, and so he sets London ablaze, both literally and metaphorically. V's actions inspire a once docile population to fight back against Northfire, young and old alike.
This is exactly what he wants.
What?
Anarchy in the UK!
With his number of supporters growing, V's message begins popping up in the streets, but it's ultimately an act of police brutality that leads people to riot. A young girl in a Guy Fawkes mask is caught spray painting V's logo and is spotted by a fingerman. When she flees, he fatally shoots her. It's a devastating moment, especially in light of her age. Number 2. Evie is Assaulted. Based on comics published in the 1980s, V for Vendetta hit theaters in 2005. But it feels incredibly relevant even today.
A yellow-coded curfew is now in effect.
Not only does it address issues such as prejudice, nationalism, mass surveillance, and police brutality, but also sexual harassment and assault. At the beginning of the film, we see Evie leaving her house to see Dietrich. There's a curfew in effect, however, and so being out puts her at risk of both criminals and the secret police. As she turns down an alley, she soon discovers that those two concerns are in fact one and the same.
I made a mistake. I shouldn't be out after curfew. I know that.
Yeah, well, maybe you could look after us before getting back to your uncle.
It's a disgusting abuse of power that's stomach-churning every time you rewatch it.
Please don't do this. I'll go home. I won't do it again. I swear. Please.
What do you think, lads? Spare the rod, spoil the child.
Help! Please, someone help!
The multiplying villainies of nature do swarm upon him.
Before we unveil our top pick, here are some disturbing honorable mentions. Government-approved fake news everywhere. A powerful reminder of the importance of the freedom of the press.
Mr. Dascombe, what we need right now is a clear message to the people of this country. This message must be read in every newspaper, heard on every radio, seen on every television.
History swept under the rug. When Inspector Finch starts digging into government operations, he's told to drop it.
Myself stationed there.
Do you know who was?
I cannot recall any specific names, but if you look through our records...
Your records are either deleted, omitted, or missing. As head of the detention program at that time...
Before you go any further, let me remind you, Inspector, things were very chaotic back then.
Evie threatened. After being caught escaping Dietrich's house, she's told to give up V or be killed.
You have one chance, and only one chance, to save your life. You must tell us the identity or whereabouts of codename V.
The Hanging of Guy Fawkes. Talk about a grisly and shocking way to start a film.
Ideas do not bleed. They do not feel pain. They do not laugh.
In-party intimidation. Even within Northfire, no one is safe.
You would do well, Inspector, to put it out of your mind.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1. Valeries Story. During her time in captivity, Evie finds the journal of a past prisoner hidden in the wall of her cell. Written on these scraps of toilet paper is the heartbreaking autobiography of a gay woman who watched Northfire rise to power and who knows their cruelty and prejudice firsthand.
My father wouldn't look at me. He told me to go and never come back.
As if being shunned by her parents wasn't bad enough, Valerie tells of how she and her partner led a life of fear under the party's leadership, culminating in them being arrested due to their sexual orientation.
It wasn't long till they came for me.
Valerie's life ends in misery and pain in a Northfire facility, where the government carried out horrific experiments and buried their victims in mass graves.
We must never lose it or give it away. We must never let them take it from us.
Do you agree with our picks? Check out this other recent clip from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.